What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Wrap Up Review Series, where we wrap up a video game that I recently finished. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the 2012 reboot, The Amazing Spider-Man for the Nintendo DS. The Amazing Spider-Man is a reboot, of course, that was showcased in theaters. It has a whole new cast. Well, not a whole new cast, but there's some faces that may be unfamiliar to people. Like if you haven't been reading the comics, such as uh, uh, Dr. Smith or Smythe. I believe that's how you pronounce it, Smythe, and like Gwen Stacy, who is like Peter Parker's girlfriend. Yeah. And yeah, so let's get into what this game is. So the storyline is basically that people in the city have been infected by this virus that's turning them into these mutant-like creatures. And it's up to like Dr. Connor and Spider-Man. Well, it's up to Spider-Man to help Dr. Connor, who is, of course, the Lizard Man, to find a cure. And unfortunately, the virus was released by the head of Osborn Corp in the current time, who is like I believe his first name is pronounced Alistair Smythe. That's how you pronounce his name, Alistair Smythe. But yeah, so what you do is that you go around the city that's mapped out pretty much like a dungeon crawler style of game, and you do missions to, yeah. Uh, what you have at your arsenal are some combos and some web slinging abilities. Like it's not too many of them. You have, some combos. There's only like 3 hits. You do have some aerial combos, and you also have some super moves, such as the web rush, which when your power meter fills up, which it does, like as you fight all the enemies, you like hold down the R button, and then it activates, and then this timer will start, and you have to mash Y in order to fill up this this power meter in order to do maximum damage with that move. There are also 2 other moves that you get called the what was that move called? The Arachnid Stomp, I believe that's what it's called. And the Web Mace. Now, what the Arachnid Stomp does is that these 2 moves in particular only use a small fraction. Well, not just like a small amount of your super meter. And what the Web Mace does is that all you gotta do is just tap R, and Spider-Man just swings this thick ball of web as a mace, and he hits his opponent, does a lot of damage. And with the Arachnid Stomp is that you jump into the air, and then you hold down and push R, and he does like this stomp that hits a small area, which can help take out like multiple enemies. But the problem with that is that the shockwave is so small that it barely hits anything. So yeah, Um, there's all the typical Spider-Man things. Like you got a, a wall crawl. You know, like web sling. Like he doesn't have as many moves as you think he would because it is the Nintendo DS, and they probably for whatever reason couldn't add everything in there. Like the only webs like shooting abilities that he has is that that he can like sling web over to his opponents, and he can like pull them in and things like that. But outside of like the web mace and that, like he doesn't really have any offensive moves that he can use with his web. I mean, like he can web sling and he can kick, but like he doesn't have any actual web maneuvers that you would probably see in the PS3 version of this game. Like he doesn't uh, uh, sling them around his head, lasso him around his head or anything like that. Like all he does as far as like that goes is that he just whips his web out and ties it around him. I mean, it can hold him in place for certain enemies that and he can just yank them in, which is pretty much like the primary thing that I use the web for. Like outside of like the web mason or arachnid stump and things like that, the and web slinging, it's nothing really outside of that really uses the web. So it's kind of sad to see that like they didn't really do more like with the web attacks in this game, but that's Nintendo DS for you. The bosses in this game are relatively simple to beat. Just almost like to the point where it's boring. Almost to the point where it's boring. Like you have the web slayers, which are these robots that were made by Osborne Corp that were meant to destroy any half-breed species. So it targeted Lizard Man, like Spider-Man. It targeted anybody within the city that was infected. So Dr. Smythe was pretty psychotic. Yeah. But anyway, like these boss fights, pretty much like all they do is just like spam shots, and the only thing you can do to really attack them is to jump up and do your air combos over and over again, and that's basically sums up those fights. There are like a few other fights, of course. There's the Lizard Man. Like you fight him. You have Scorpion. Sadly, like like they don't involve him like into the storyline. So like he's just one of like the infected people that just so happens to turn into him. So that's as far as like the storyline goes with him. Like he's just an early on boss that really doesn't add anything to the storyline, like, which is sad to say. But yeah, and the stage design in this game, I would say like that's probably one of like the better aspects of the game. Like there are certain spots in this game where like Spider-Man can't walk or like web sling. Like there's like these little pits with loose wires, like that can cause damage to you. Like there's these pits with fires. There are also like these gas chambers type things that they can like knock you off the edges and things like that if you're not careful, and they all cause damage. So yeah, and there's also some walls that the Spider-Man can't stick to, and like that poses a challenge. Even at one point in the game, like his health gets drained really low. I mean, it was something, but it wasn't too much of a challenge to where I was like, oh my god, like I finally overcame this part. It was just woohoo. So overall, what do I think of this game? Well, first off, this game is ridiculously short. So short, in fact, I beat this game in 1 hour and 22 minutes and 15 seconds. 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 15 seconds. I believe that was my ending time. Let me check this. 1 hour, 20. No, it was 1 hour and 21 minutes and 15 seconds. My bad. So I beat the game that damn quick. So I was already done with it. I mean, they do allow you to go back and, like find like all of the secrets, such as like newspaper headlines and character bios. I mean, I don't know if it unlocks anything special, once you find all of them. But I wasn't interested in going back and do all that shit over again. I mean, yeah. So, like, in all honesty, like, I would rate this game a 4 out of 10 because it's too damn quick. You're not going to be able to do anything else with it. It's only good for 1 hour and 21 minute playthrough. I mean, it is fun. Don't get me wrong, it is fun. If you haven't played a Spider-Man game in a while, like the controls may take some getting used to again, because like sometimes, like the controls are kind of confusing at first. But yeah, it's just a short movie tie-in, typical. But with this game in particular, I would say you would do better with getting this game on the console. This is one of those games where I do not recommend, like obviously I wouldn't recommend this for anybody to buy this like on the Nintendo DS. It's just not one of those games that you would buy for the system. You will get much more for your money if you like buy it for the PS3. So it's fun. I wish they could have did more with it, but sometimes that's what it is with movie tie-ins. They always end up short and full of shit. You know what I mean? So Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man for the Nintendo DS, 4 out of 10. I enjoyed it even though it was short. I wish they could have made it longer somehow, but like they didn't even bother to add anything extra to it. You know what I mean? Besides the, well, like you missed all these things here and there, And I forgot to mention about the power-ups that you find, like throughout like the little secret areas on each stage. But you didn't really need to even talk about that because the game was so damn short. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode of the wrap-up. I hope you guys liked it. As you can see, I am getting better. Like I'm not even like reading off of no paper or anything like that. So, but as you can tell in my voice, I am still kind of nervous about talking in front of the camera. But I'm getting over it. So yay me. But yeah, see you guys for the next episode of the wrap-up. Peace.